Hi, I'm Bob Tabor with LearnVisualStudio.net. You know, the Pet Sounds app was a nice way to learn about XAML and Windows Phone development and layout and media, the media element and playing sounds and things of that nature. But now we have commercial aspirations with our app. So in this lesson, what we want to do is sit down and think about designing and developing a more robust version of our Pet Sounds app. A SoundBoard app with many different types of categories of sounds and perhaps even the ability to record our own sounds so that we can annoy our friends and loved ones. Okay, so in our game plan for this lesson is that we're going to start by sketching out some ideas on paper, what I call a low-tech mock-up. We'll sketch some ideas about the user interface of our app, about the interaction between the user and our app, and think through how we want the user to be able to navigate between things and click on things and things of that nature, all right? And then we'll begin the process of setting up the new app. So we're going to create a new project. We'll copy assets into the project. We'll set up the app resources.rsx file, all the things that we learned about before, but these are tasks that we now need to perform for our brand new project. So there's not a lot to learn here necessarily. These are just steps that we're going to have to go through to create a new project. All right. So as we set out to think about designing our first commercial app, I'd recommend that you take some time and you read through this article. It's awesome. Windows Phone 8 design process. If you've never been part of a creative process of designing apps or websites before, this is invaluable information, so don't skip over it. And then also there is this template for sketching up what I call a low-tech mock-up. And you can find it at the URL on screen right now. You can see this is a blank version of it. And these templates are not only useful for getting your ideas down on paper, but also for thinking through the user's interaction with the app and what feedback we can show the user about the functionality of the app. And so then I can also use this low-tech mock-up that I draw on with a pen or pencil in order to communicate my design and my interaction ideas to other people, to gather feedback before I waste time developing the app, just to realize that I made a major flaw in the way I'm thinking about designing the app from a user interface perspective or an interaction perspective because I assumed too much. Sometimes as developers we have the curse of knowledge. We know what we're trying to do, but it's not always obvious to somebody else. So getting feedback early in the design process is crucial, and a low-tech mock-up on a template like this one, like you see on the screen, the location for that file is invaluable. All right? So, practicing what I preached, I use that template to sketch my ideas for the SoundBoard app, and you see a larger version on screen here. But the design was largely inspired by the Pivot app project template that we learned about in the previous lesson. So there's going to be several pivot items, or categories of sounds, views, types. I might use all these different, these terms to indicate these categories, these pivot items that will each contain a number of sound tiles. And so then when you tap on one of the sound tiles, I want to actually then play that sound. And I also want to be able to record a sound. So I have some other screens that I mocked up for that purpose as well. I'll have an app bar at the very bottom of the main page, and tapping on the little record button will allow you to record a sound. Now, my original design was that I would have 3 buttons on the page, one to record, one to play back, and then one to save the sound that you're working on. But then we had the idea that we could provide some visual feedback to the user. And to do that, we could easily create sort of a reel-to-reel player, from way back in the 1960s, and we can animate that while recording. You can see I drew little arrows to indicate that it would rotate while you're recording, and that would offer some great visual feedback to the user that recording is now in progress. And then finally, clicking the save button in another app bar would then allow you to provide a name for the sound, and it would be displayed in a pivot item tile, a pivot item named mine or custom or something like that. That you would see here then at the very top. Now, besides the design process, there's always some effort in getting the assets that you need for a project like this. Now, in this case, we're providing you with the sounds and the images to follow along with our example here. But truth be told, Clint Rutkiss spent a few hours working with a sound guy and a graphic artist. And in my experience, the effort required to bring in creative types, people that are creatively minded, not programmers necessarily, or to actually build the creative assets yourself should not be underestimated. It can be challenging even in a simple app. If you have serious commercial aspirations, I would find somebody well-versed in the area of creativity that you need, whether it be sound or a visual designer or whatever the case might be, especially if you're not an expert in that area already. You can waste a lot of time trying to make your images and your sounds just right and still fall far short of something that can pass as professional quality. So whether it be for a website or for an app that I've worked on, I have never regretted paying a professional, whether it be a sound guy or more likely a visual designer, for their help to make my apps or my websites look spectacular. It's made me look more professional than I really am, honestly. But at any rate, just a little bit of planning up front and some time spent acquiring the assets that I'll need, I have a good direction for my app. So let's go ahead and get started developing the app itself. And to do that, what I'm going to do is going to go File, New Project, and we're going to make sure to create a new Windows Phone Pivot app, right? And we're going to call this SoundBoard. SoundBoard, and click OK. And we're going to target the 8.0 version of the operating system. And the first thing I want to do is include those assets that Clint Rutkiss acquired into our app. And I'm going to do that by going, first of all, to our existing assets folder that was set up by the project template. And I want to delete everything inside of here first. So I'm going to select it all, right click and select delete. It asks, do you want to delete it permanently? Yes, I do. Next, I want to open up the folder where we have the assets for these projects. Now, I happen to unzip that file to my documents directory. Wherever you unzipped it, you'll recall we used this already for the Pet Sounds assets. This time we're going to use it for the SoundBoard assets. So I'm going to drill into that subfolder. And here what I want to do is just select everything in here. I click on the first item, hold down the Shift button, click on the last item. And now what I want to do is drag and drop to the Assets folder in the Solution Explorer, and it will copy a bunch of files into my Assets folder. Okay, very good. And we can kind of look through here. We've got some tiles, we've got some audio, animals, cartoons, taunts, warnings, very good. And that should pretty much do it. We also have an application icon. If I hover over it, well, let's double click it. See it in the main area here, or actually in Paint. Can't see it because it has a translucent background. You'll see it soon enough. All right, so now in the Properties folder, the next thing I want to do is open up my wm-app-manifest.xml file into the main area. And what I want to do here is ensure that the app icon as well as the small and medium icons are set properly, and it looks like they are. We have just a little microphone icon, so that's good. We haven't talked about this yet, but Windows Phone 8 projects support 3 different tile templates. There is a flip template, a cycle template, and an iconic template. And the link that you see on screen right now does a really nice job of explaining the different types of templates for the tiles. In this app, our needs are simple, but later on in this series, we're going to be able to use a cycle template to see how to programmatically give it a list of images to cycle through. Now, personally, I love any type of data visualization, so I love those apps that use the iconic template for anything that has a lot of updatable information that can be displayed in a tile. For example, on my own phone, I have this weather app that updates the tile with the temperature, the humidity, the wind, the visibility, and so on. And I have another app that displays the amount of battery remaining in an iconic tile rather. And also I have a countdown app that shows me the number of days until I'm able to take my Colorado vacation, okay? So I have actively sought out apps like these in the store because I think they make my start page look cool, again, as an end user of the phone. And so think seriously. If you have information that can be displayed iconically, then you might want to choose to go the route of using the template iconic and then approach development from that perspective. All right, so let's go ahead. I don't think we had any changes to this page. What I want to do next, though, is I want to think about configuring the title of the main page to pull from the app resources.resx file. I don't plan on localizing our application completely, but I'm going to go ahead and set up the app so that we could easily add it in the future and expand the number of markets that we can sell our app to. So to begin that process, what I want to do is open up the main page.xaml, and I want to locate the phone.pivot element. I'm going to look at the title attribute, and what I want to do is change this from just a hard-coded string to a binding syntax. We're going to change this to binding path equals localized resources dot application title, and then we want to set the source equal to a static resource localized strings. And we've already talked about this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it right now, but I will move it onto a different line like so. Okay. And now in the app resources directory, I'm going to come in here and I want to change the application title from my application to SoundBoard. All right, and we'll save all that. And let's go ahead and just look at it here, and let's even just run the app just to make sure that that change took. Okay, and it did. You can see the name of our app, SoundBoard, shows up, and we're using a pivot app template. We're good to go so far. So to recap, not a whole lot of new in this lesson per se, but these are the type of tasks that we need to perform each time we undertake a new project. We did talk about a few new topics, like focusing on the design and the interaction of the app and choosing from the different types of tile templates that are available. So we'll pick this back up in the next lesson. We'll see you there. Thanks.